The voice of women. The voice of women. 91.7.
WFM 91.7. It's a beautiful morning. Today's Wednesday, the 20th of May 2020. It's 22 minutes past 9 on the radio this morning. We're having a conversation on the global impact of COVID-19 and policy recommendation. And joining me in the conversation is founder Tech NG Chioma Chuka. Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks.
Yes, thank you for joining us. All right, a lot has been happening in the last, let's say, the last 10 weeks with regards to the coronavirus. But from a personal angle right now, how has this particular pandemic affected you?
First of all, I think just the restriction of movement.
Okay.
So it's affected, if you think about my business, I run a communications consultancy in addition to TechHar, which is a community for women.
Okay.
So it's affected the business in the sense that a lot of our interventions are in person. The gap in penetration of technology, but also in the acquisition of skills, are often or best mitigated by interpersonal engagements. And of course, Corona means that we cannot hang out with each other as we want to. So on the business side, I've really suffered not being able to go out, etc. For instance, we started a school tour. Reaching 10 of the most vulnerable schools in Abuja, and teaching the children to, just understand a bit about technology, careers, using playing cards. Obviously, schools are out of session, so that's not
happening.
Exactly, that's not happening. But then also, there's a lot of schools who are now having some sort of online learning.
Yes.
My kids in those 10 schools, some of them have never seen a computer. So obviously, the gap in education and the gap in knowledge will be even wider. By the time schools resume, because some people have the luxury of being able to jump on a Zoom call with their class teachers, etc. Some of the schools we went to, they're not even connected to the national grid, and this is in the Federal Capital Territory. Not suburbs, not satellite towns, this is in the Federal Capital Territory. So, those kinds of things. On the personal side, obviously, you miss hanging out with your friends, hanging out with your family. I've been worried sick about my parents, obviously, because they're older, more vulnerable. And it's just a general disruption, I guess. I think we've taken a lot of things for granted. Even being able to give each other a hug, see your friend, hey, how you doing? Give them a big hug. That's not happening.
Unconsciously shake hands.
Exactly. You can't even shake hands these days. So I guess it's all of those little changes, that have been really disruptive. But at the end of the day, we're grateful that we're still here. So many people have died, around the world, even in Nigeria, especially people in Nigeria whose deaths have not been acknowledged. So for instance, you hear 100 and something in this northern state, 100 and this in another state, 640 at some point out of Kano, and those numbers have not even been added to the official NCDC numbers because the method for the autopsy was verbal. So it's more anecdotal rather than, full science or empirical.
Sorry to cut you there, but what's your perspective to the fact that they conducted verbal autopsy instead of like a more medical autopsy?
To be honest, and I think this is a really sensitive topic, obviously because of the kind of place Nigeria is. There's science, but then there's also religion. And when we now come to places in like Nigeria, where politicians, place politics before human decency. There's also political expediency. So, yes, the Quran refuses autopsy, right? The belief is, Allah gives, Allah takes, may His name be praised. However, when you have over 640 people just drop like flies, there's got to be the question about, do we not even want to find out what's wrong, right? United Arab Emirates is conducting autopsy. Saudi Arabia, in the light of this pandemic, has conducted autopsies. And so it's like, are we more, what is this claim we make to religion sometimes, denying the power of it? Because, you look at, yes, we're religious, Christians, we're plenty, Muslims, we're plenty, traditional worshippers, we're plenty, but there's so much evil going on in Nigeria. And so the question becomes, why are we quick to whip up religion, in specific instances, and then we almost contort this religion to suit the angles we're trying to take, as opposed to just doing the things that we're supposed to do. So that's my take. I fear that we will never really, because we also had a Lassa fever outbreak, right?
Yes,
I know that in some places in Nigeria there are other sicknesses. Malaria is still one of the biggest killers
in
the
Nigeria,
country.
yes.
Exactly. So isolating what kills those people, Bauchi, Jigawa, Katsina, Kano, Benue, all these places, isolating would have been really critical. I was having a conversation with some friends and we're talking about there are specific statistics that need to be coming out of Nigeria at this point. For instance, why is it that African Americans and, black British people are dying quicker than Africans in Africa? Is there something with the, is there something with the foods we're eating? Is there something in our genetic makeup? Is there something in our environment? These are questions that we should answer scientifically, so that when something else happens, or something else happens, we're able to say, based on what happened in the time of Ebola, based on what happened in the time of SARS, based on what happened in the time of Corona, here are some immediate things that apply to us. And this is what New Zealand has done. New Zealand schools are open.
Yeah.
Kids are back in school because they have visionary leadership that has, applied itself to the people. Not to what everyone else is saying, not what America, Italy, UK. No, because as we've seen, this virus has exposed, the gaping holes in leadership across the world.
That leads me to my next question, Chioma, because the concept of today's conversation is regards to the fact that the issue of the coronavirus is a global impact. It happened around the world. But what's your perspective to the response of top countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, China, Italy, in the fight against this particular pandemic? I don't know if you've read the report by Donald Trump to the World Health Organization.
Yep. I read that.
Okay, and then what would you say is the? Let's first of all, from your perspective, how much do you think this top other nations, which we in quote look as the most developed world, responds to this particular pandemic? Have they been the most proactive in terms of response?
To be honest, I think it was just what I was saying about it exposed the gaping holes in leadership, right? Right from when we were kids, we saw America as the superpower, right? Everything is possible in America. You can do you can become anything in America, blah, 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 blah. However, we look at what's going on and realize that it's not what we thought it was, right? Some started from saying, it's just the flu, you need to do this, you need to do that, to the point of even, saying that people should inject disinfectants, or cleaning materials, right? So everything, his letter to the head of the World Health Organization was a really strongly worded letter. It exposed, the mistakes that the World Health Organization made, exposed, something that is now looking like, what's the word? Kind of like the World Health Organization was covering for China, all of that. But then you also have to look at the fact that Trump himself said quite a bit of bull, right? At the beginning of this pandemic. He too said, it's not coming to America, we're going to shut our doors, it's not going to enter. As if it's somebody who's going to come to the gate of the country, right? Then he also said, that he called it a Chinese virus. And everyone is kind of putting their foot in their mouth. And the truth is, we've not seen something like this before. We've not seen something like this before. So I think, they say that you prepare for war in peacetime. This is clearly showing us who was prepared. Look at Germany, right? Berlin is open. Cities in Germany are opening. If you were prepared, you will be fine. That's just the truth. Look at places like even Haiti. Haiti, with their land disasters, because they know they are prone to, earthquakes, tornadoes, etc. They have plans in place for. I was watching something. I think it was the Prime Minister or something, or one of the mayors was saying, you know what to do. Everybody, I think it's something in their law that you must have a 2-week supply. So she said, bring out your 2-week supply and stay at home. We already know what should be in your 2-week supply box. Dry foods, tinned foods, medicines, Don't go to hospitals, etc., etc. And this is a country that's one of the poorest in the world, right? But they have a plan. We don't have a plan. I mean, this is 10 weeks into the pandemic, or maybe a bit more, and we're still not testing up to 5,000 people a day. There are states in Nigeria. Kogi has tested one person. What's the other state that I saw? There's another state Cross River, yes, the two birds of the feather. Cross River has not tested anybody. Or I think Cross River has tested one, Kogi hasn't tested anybody. It's one of the two. You know? It doesn't even make any sense. And my hope is just that as we inch towards the 2023 elections, that Nigerians remember which of their leaders showed visionary leadership.
Okay.
That's just the thing. Because 2023 will roll around, somebody will share 500 naira, and people will go and vote for someone based on a party, as opposed to the leadership that the person has shown.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. The time is actually 28 minutes to 10, and this is the big question of Women Radio 91.7. Chioma Chuka, we're having a conversation on the global impact of COVID-19 and policy recommendation. And I appreciate the fact that you have spoken a lot more about leadership being a major impact on why we are seeing the leadership of various countries. But let's come down to Africa and look at the response of Africa to this particular pandemic, and looking at the fact that there is a whole lot going on, which in fact I was reading on the papers this morning where the CBN governor was rallying around industrialists to rebuilding the economy of Nigeria. And then a major concern was looking at our power sector and looking at how we are fared in our power sector. I was reading a report some weeks back on a particular mobile company coming to Africa, setting up 3 major branches in Africa, and none came to Nigeria, and all of those 3 branches they have within Africa, their major target market is Nigeria. And then the major
they're not mad now. They're not mad. Look at Lagos State, right? And look at GoCada, and look at all the transport hailing companies, the bike hailing companies. All it took was one person in the Lagos State government to say, "Oh, we don't like this thing." They phased all of them out in one day. The news cycle was full of people saying, "I just finished purchasing Keke Napep." I watched one particularly harrowing story of a guy who started from driving Okada to doing hire purchase on one Keke Napep, and he's worked so diligently over the last 4 years. He now has 7 Keke Napeps, and he has people driving for him. In one day, the government wiped out his entire business. Do you understand? So if you're a business person coming to Africa to do work, you have to think about what is the volatility of policies in the country I'm going to. Even me, if I was coming from outside Africa, I would come to Nigeria now. Look at the problems that Uber and Co are facing. Come to Abuja. Every day you go to the airport, there's one Uber car being clamped, being this, being that. Because the taxi association says Uber cannot function in the airport. And regardless of the conversations that have been had between the two people, there's an independent government within the airport of local taxis who keep terrorizing these guys. And every time their cars are clamped, they have to pay like 25,000 naira. How do you expect to run a business like that? Look at some places in Abuja, they're saying they're going to fumigate our offices for 120,000. How many people have that kind of money? Why won't people take their businesses elsewhere? There are very clear cases where businessmen and women have gone into certain communities to do stuff. They ask you to pay. What am I paying for? I'm here to do something to improve the lives of these people. And so they carry the businesses and go. I hear these stories every single day.
Let's look at policy recommendation, because a major part of the impact of the COVID-19 is especially for Nigeria is our health policy, which the Vice President Emil Shibajo led the NCPC to propose free health care and also improved power for Nigeria. That's the National Council on Privatization. And as of this morning, I was reading a report from the Senate with regards to deprivatizing the power sector, and that is a major conversation that a lot of people would disagree with, that we cannot deprivatize the power sector all over and then maybe take full ownership from the government. But in terms of policy, how bad are we with policies to better the lives of Nigerians?
See, this power sector thing. I remember 2012, I lived in the UK, and I came back to Nigeria to work with a government agency, just around their communications and around their social media, etc. And I think it opened my eyes to everything around the power sector, and the reason why, to be honest, I'm not hoping on government to fix the power sector. Because a lot of times we think of power as switching on a light and power comes through. But we forget that there's a generation aspect of it, there's a transmission aspect of it,
True.
and then there's a distribution before it now comes to us, right? There are gaping holes in each of these three. So sometimes the problem is we're not generating enough. Other times it is that the pipelines that should carry what has been generated are not enough, or they're bad, or they've been vandalized, or there's a problem with, it's either NMPC is fighting with TCN or this or that or that. And so you can't use my pipeline, or you can use it today, but here is this and here is that. And you have to think about how much has been pumped into power in this country in the last 10 years, in the last 15 years. And this doesn't have to do with any political party or the other. It just has to do with the quality of leadership that we have, or the quality of leadership that we've had. So when, Vice President comes and says they're going to blah, 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 healthcare for all, is there not a former minister that said that, we have too many doctors, if they want to travel, they should travel. The ones that don't have jobs, they should go to the farm. Do you understand? Where do you want to have a vibrant national health policy?
Okay.
At the end of 2018, I was a big part of some advocacy movements to get this policy passed, right? Okay. And the thing that everyone was niggling about was money. So you have to think about what is the priority that government places on some of these things. We're still currently spending less than the WHO recommended percentage on health. Same thing for education, and we have the highest number of out-of-school children in the world. So, words are empty. Words are, don't tell me you're going to do stuff, do it. But don't keep telling Nigerians we'll do this, we'll do that. No.
Okay.
We're tired. There's a lot of cynicism in the country now because you give with the left hand, you take with the right hand and two legs. So at the end of the day, you leave people even more impoverished than they were at the start.
Now, talking about poverty, which is a major concern on this conversation, is the fact that this particular pandemic has actually increased the level of inequalities in our societies in terms of the social economic importance with regards to the people. You spoke about the high level of out of school children. We account for about 13 million out of school children in Nigeria alone, and this inequalities has also the pandemic has also exposed the fact that we do not have enough corporate data to be able to address some of our issues. Now, in terms of policy recommendation to help us collect the right amount of data to move the economy forward, how then can we go about this?
But let's start from our population. And you cannot plan for a people you cannot count or you have not counted. We don't know how many we are. We're relying on numbers from over 10, 12 years ago, and we're prospecting, if Chioma has 2 children, and Blessing has 4 children, and Adamu has 5 children, and co. Therefore, we assume this is the number.
Okay.
There's also a dishonesty on the part of government to do a census that everyone can believe in, because it affects the way monies are shared, it affects allocations, etc. But I think that the first step to planning and to planning effectively is counting. Is to run a census. How many are we? How many are we in Abuja? How many are we in Kaduna? How many are we in Enugu? Let's know, and then what are the challenges that people are facing beyond the obvious no light, no water, no job, etc. What are the things that people aspire to? That's how you plan for people. What are their aspirations? How do we build investment in this country? Look at the way Nigerians are leaving the country in droves. People who came back to Nigeria are asking themselves, what the heck was I thinking coming back? Right? Because there's no investment, and this absence of an emotional investment in the country manifests in all sorts of ways. Agitation here and there. Nobody feels like they need to protect anything. Nobody feels like they need to look after anything. So agitation. How many INEC offices have been burnt here? How many cases of arson? It's just people who do not feel invested. There's nothing here for me. Why should I let it stand? That's kind of where we need to start from. And it's not lip service. It's not another national conference. I'm sure we're all tired of those. It's not another constitutional review committee. It's, how do I explain? It's honesty on the part of government. You can't be telling us you're going to increase taxes and legislators are buying new cars. You can't be telling us you're going to increase taxes because the country does not have money and governors are building 500 million naira mosques. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
If we're going to be frugal, then let us see this frugality from the top. You cannot have legislators in office who should be in jail, then you tell young people don't steal. It doesn't work like that. Because what people then think is, you know what, don't steal 2 Maggi or don't steal 1 cow. Steal 200 gazillion dollars so that you have enough money to absolve yourself from prosecution. That's the culture we're creating.
Okay, 18 minutes to 10. This is The Big Question, Women Radio 91.7. This is a conversation on the global impact of COVID-19 and policy recommendation. Chioma Chuka, founder TechHa NG, is who I'm speaking with this morning. And one of the things that this pandemic has brought is it has increased the number of unemployed people in our country. And like you said, we actually need to even count to actually know the exact number of figures of people who are actually unemployed. And we're looking at what form of policy recommendation would you agree to with regards to helping, or I was talking to a friend in the US the other day, and he was talking about there's something called an unemployment benefit for certain individuals who, for reasons beyond control, do not have a job. And I'm asking myself, when are we going to get there as Nigerians, when we have a highly unregulated market system? That's the informal sector, which we do not take cognizance of. This morning, the Lagos bakers are saying they want to increase the price of certain goods items from their bakery by 60%. And I'm saying, what policies were put in place by the government since the pandemic started to be able to ease the regulate the price of raw materials? Because I was saying we cannot talk about consumer protective rights if we have not done the things that would affect the manufacturers. And that leads to the question of what then can be done, what recommendations can be done, because as bakers are trying to increase certain things, if it's not coming forth, what that means is that's an informal sector that we don't even know if they have like a database for the people that they employ. I was saying on my 8 o'clock show this morning, the newspaper review, that the sales of breads have reduced in Lagos because we do not have traffic anymore. People have to be in their house before 8 p.m. and that is like when the sale of this particular bread is supposed to be on. So how then do we put policies to be able to regulate this unregulated market system, also addressing the rising level of unemployment in our country?
I think it comes back to having a vision, right? If you look at, I'll take a country like the UK for instance. You don't just tell people, oh, don't increase prices, which is something the Nigerian government has done before, which is a stupid thing to do, right? Because if, for instance, I used to buy the raw materials for my shop or for my baking, let's use this baker's analogy. If I used to buy the raw materials for my baking at 100 naira, and then I go to buy, and the person who sells tells me that, oh, she used to travel from Jos to Abuja for 100 naira before, it's now 150. So she's added the price. I have to translate that price, the price increase, into my production. So when I sell my loaf of bread, which used to be 5 naira, and I sell it for 10 naira, the woman who is selling a wagon with bread, right? Okay. She used to sell it at 5 naira before. She increases the price. The bus driver who has paid more to eat increases the price for transportation, and it just goes on like that. If you take a country like the UK, first of all, they put a freeze on mortgages. Right, so they put a freeze, meaning that you don't have to worry. Since people are not working, you don't have to worry. Then the government reached out to the banks and engaged them. So it's like a 360, very, very wholesome, palliative. It's not giving people 20,000 naira or giving them, in some cases, the money that got to them was like 5,000 or 7,500. What does that do? If 5,000 could feed a family for a month before, right? Or 500 naira could feed a family for a month before, that same 500 naira in their hands now is like 2 weeks' money. So giving them 500 naira, you've only taken care of them for 2 weeks. Even giving them this money every two weeks, it doesn't make sense. We're quick to do these, there's a place in the Bible that says, it's kind of like you are saying you are aligning yourself with a power, but you with a thing, but you are denying the power thereof. So you are saying we're doing this, we're doing that. It's just outward shows of empty activities, performative nonsense. Because you've given them money, we've taken pictures. First of all, let's even ignore all of the safety rules you broke, right, by handling that amount of cash. Right? You say they don't have BVN, etc. This is an opportunity to work on, digitalizing or banking the unbanked, right? This is a conversation conversation you have with banks, instead of melting them for money to build isolation centers or to just have a pot of money somewhere that we're not even sure what is being done, what's being done with it.
Okay.
How can we put these people on schemes? How can we bank them quickly? So we can transfer these monies and there's a clear record. What we lack in this country is trust. I don't trust you, radio presenter. You don't trust your producer. Producer doesn't trust the person who is handling the gen. The person who is handling the gen does not trust the Okada that takes him to work. Nobody trusts anybody. And that's because nobody is showing anyone what they're doing. We're not seeing working. I'm tired of saying we give them 5,000 naira. So you dehumanize the person because they are poor, right? You have to show them their hands outstretched to collect money from you. How many times are you going to give them that money? All of these things are one-off. They don't take care of anybody. So we have to think about what is a 360 way. Even if you take a small community and pilot it there. Okay, this is how it works. This is what we've learned. Then we go to a bigger community, etc. That's how you make change happen.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for all of they have said this morning. I want to take just one or two calls this morning. 07000 917 917 for you to be part of this conversation. You can send me a text or a WhatsApp message on 070 317 565 37 to be part of this conversation. We're talking about global impact of COVID-19 and policy recommendation in Nigeria. And just as we begin to get to the end of this conversation, another aspect of globally that has been affected is the travel and hospitality sector. I know you're well traveled, and that is a sector that has been largely affected. Did you have any travel plans at the beginning of the year?
See, today is my birthday, man. I was supposed to be in Europe. I spent my birthday last year in Luxembourg, and my plan this year was to be in, was to just run through 3 countries in Europe. Obviously, everybody's stuck in, in Abuja or whatever. So, of course, I had speaking engagements planned, and I think that's even affected my, affected securing the bag as well, because you do speaking engagements, you get paid for them, etc. A lot of people can't go around anymore to do those kinds of things. I'm a communications trainer. I'm not able because people are not allowed to come together, and stuff like that. So yeah, there's all of that disruption, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Happy birthday to you, and we celebrate you so much for joining us this morning. All right. As we wrap up this conversation, what are the lessons that you have learned so far from this pandemic?
I think the lessons, the biggest lessons that I've learned, to be honest, revolve around my mental health. Right, and just protecting my mental space, especially because of the kind of work that I do. The first few weeks were really tough. I didn't just believe we could be locked up in one place and not move, blah 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 blah. And so I've learned to carefully and very intentionally curate the space that I want, that I want to have. I've also learned, again, I have a team of people who work with me. Catering to them has been utmost in my mind. We stopped working in the office from like the middle of March. Everyone's gotten paid. We even gave, we paid half salaries early so people could stock up their houses and then stay home. So ensuring that my team is fully taken care of. We haven't laid off anybody.
Okay.
We've been pinched a little bit.
Okay.
But my utmost, devotion, as it were, is to ensure that they remain comfortable to the best extent that I can. So I guess the lessons I've learned have revolved around new markets. Okay, we can't reach out to people physically.
Yeah. What
can we do online? There's some of the briefs that we've gotten. For instance, we just got a gig to work for some people in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. Right? This is a French-speaking country, but we have to think about. Look, we need to raise money. We need to raise money, right? And the best places to raise money now will be outside the country because the naira is tanking, right? So.
All right, thank you for joining us this morning. And I think the last question I'll just put out there is, what would be your final words on global impact of COVID-19 and policy recommendations for Nigeria?
I think that there are opportunities for Nigeria or for Nigerians to work with each other, but then there are also opportunities for Nigerians to work with other countries. This is a time to be honest, for Africa to wake up and devise a policy that guides the entire continent. What's our response to things like this? You know, we keep talking about free movement, etc. That's not even happened, right? I think there's only like 2 or 3 people on the continent who have what they call the AU passport, which shouldn't be so. It's still a privilege at this point. I think Dangote is one of the people who has them, right? Okay. The privilege shouldn't be. How do we ramp up production? How do we ramp up industrialization post the pandemic? Those are the questions we should be asking each other. You know, those are my thoughts.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Chioma Chuka. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Do have a lovely day and happy birthday once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. The big question, Women Radio 91.7, 8 minutes to 10. And yes, that's the conversation with global impact of COVID-19 and policy recommendation. I just had that conversation with Chioma Chuka, founder Tekha NG. My name is Daniel Adaja, and at 10 would be Radio Doctor, your free health consultation radio program. Real doctors advise real people. Do well to be part of the rest of the conversation on the radio this morning. At 11 would be Panorama, where we have the ladies come discuss topical issues of the day. And on the other side of 12 down to 5 is going to be some sort of a break. And we're back at 5, where we have Anthony Damelda have you up until 8 p.m. on the radio. It's Women Radio 91.7. My name is Daniel Adaja. Today is the 20th of May 2020. So happy birthday to you if today is your birthday. I will wish you long life and prosperity. All right, people. Join us again tomorrow morning at 9:15 till 10 for another engaging conversation on The Big Question. Good morning.
WFM 91.7.